All right, questions 8 and 9 ask you to simplify the complex fraction. Now remember that a complex fraction means that you have a fraction with another fraction in either the numerator, the denominator, or both. And if you look at questions 8 and 9, you'll see that there's extra fractions in both the numerators and the denominators. So these questions are going to be rather tricky. All right, but since we have the plus signs in the numerator and denominator, the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to need to find a common denominator. So let's look at just the numerator first. We have an x and we have a y in our denominators, so our common denominator is going to be xy. So I'm going to rewrite this with xy in my denominators. So definitely, since the first fraction only has an x, to change it into xy, you would have to multiply by y. So now in our numerator, we have 1y, or we can just write that as y. The second fraction has a y, so to turn that into xy, we know we have to multiply by x. So now we have 4x. And we can now combine our numerators and write that as one fraction. Y plus 4x over xy. Okay, so in the denominator, same thing. We have an x and a y as our denominator, so our common denominator will just be xy. And the first fraction, again, we're going to have to multiply by y. And the second fraction, we're going to have to multiply by x. And then we can combine that into one fraction. So we've simplified a little, but it's still looking rather messy. So now, remember this big division bar here means divide. So I'm going to rewrite this with a division sign instead of a fraction bar. Pick a new color. So now I'm going to write this as y plus 4x over xy divided by 4y plus x over xy. And if we go way back to the first video, we know that when we're dividing fractions, we actually need to change it to multiply and then flip the second fraction so that we have the reciprocal. Remember, that's called multiplying by the reciprocal. So let's copy down the first fraction, y plus 4x, and this over xy, and then multiply by the reciprocal, xy, 4y plus x. And now we look to see if there's anything that we can cancel. We can definitely cancel out the xy, and we can write our answer as y plus 4x over 4y plus x. And you can't factor anymore, you can't cancel anymore, so you are done. All right, number 9, same thing. We have fractions in both the numerator and the denominator. So this is going to take a little bit of work here. I'll get some big fraction bars ready for us. Okay, so underneath this 5, we have a 1. So our denominators are a 1 and an x plus 4. So our common denominator is going to be x plus 4. Because that 1, it doesn't affect much. And remember, we talked about when we subtract, we're actually going to add and change the second sign to subtraction. Okay, so the first fraction needs to be multiplied by x plus 4. So when I multiply 5 times x plus 4, I get 5x plus 20. Second fraction already had x plus 4, so I can just copy down the negative 5. Now we'll combine what we have in our numerators. We have 5x plus 20 minus 5, which gives us 5x plus 15 over x plus 4. All right, now let's work on that denominator. So same thing, we can put a 1 here. So again, our common denominator is just x plus 4. We're going to change that to a plus sign and change that to a negative. And our first fraction is going to need to be multiplied by x plus 4. So that gives me 1x, or just x plus 4, and then a negative 1. And when I combine my numerators, x plus 4 minus 1, that gives me x plus 3 over x plus 4. All right, now we know that we can rewrite this thing as a division problem. So I have 5x plus 15 over x plus 4 divided by x plus 3 over x plus 4. All right, now again, we know that division means multiply by the reciprocal, so we can rewrite this. 5x plus 15 over x plus 4 times x plus 4 over x plus 3. All right, now we can look for what we can cancel. I can cancel out the x plus 4s. So now I'm left with 5x plus 15 over x plus 3. Now be really careful because 5x plus 15 has a GCF, so we need to continue factoring on this one. So I can take out a 5 out of both 5x and 15. So I take out a 5, and that leaves me with an x and a 3. So once again, we can go back to that canceling step, cancel out our x plus 3's, and our answer is just a simple 5.